Alright, so this is Tat's video talking about it's time for another meta shakeup, which is probably going to be very similar to our last video. Please, right now, take the time to go subscribe to Tat. Tat is somebody who is luckily enough to call it a very good stream acquaintance. Very, very good homie. They've rated us a couple times. I've rated them a couple times. Yeah, so definitely go support the official release. Please subscribe to the Quality Legion Gamer. And we're going to listen to them talk about how it's time for another meta shakeup and their takes on it and how that compares to ours.
Yo, what's up guys, it's Tat, and today I wanted to make a video talking about the meta in Dead by Daylight and the various perks on both sides that I believe are in need of some changing. There's actually quite a few that I think could be getting a couple of changes. Mostly killer perks actually. I'd say about a third of this entire video, maybe even less, like a quarter, is going to be survivor perks and the rest will be all killer perks. There's a lot more problematic stuff on killer side than survivor side. That's a hard pill to swallow when it comes to perks.
Yep.
Obviously medkits and stuff are broken as shit, but when it comes to actual perks, I think that killer has way more oppressive perks in general, and I would like to have a bit of a video here showcasing a couple ideas that I have for them. So I'm going to start with survivor perks and then we'll dedicate the rest of the video to killer perks because it's way easier for me to go through the survivor perk changes than the killer perk changes. It takes less time. So let's start with adrenaline. Simple change. It just doesn't wake up a sleeping survivor anymore. It's a little weird that it specifically affects Freddy. Now I get
that is weird.
Like a lore
that is really weird.
Kind of nod to the Nightmare on Elm Street films, but yeah, this is a video game. Game balance over lore. Any day of the week.
That's so funny.
It does not need to also wake up a sleeping survivor. Its effects are already good enough. It doesn't need, you know, to specifically.
That's so weird. Yeah, I guess it's for the lore TM. But that's so strange. Like, why? Why? That's so like oddly specific.
Counter one killer. Autodidact. This is gonna be a nice one because I know that there are a handful.
This is my big thing. Spy and Chill got really unfairly nerfed when they were trying to make it more of an accessibility perk. They took away not only its vault speed, but they took away its extra skill check chances. So now, the only thing in the game that actually increases your skill check chances is hyperfocus. In terms of, like, healing. Yes, they did. Spine Shield no longer gives you extra skill check chances. It only does the radius thing. It does not give you the extra vault speed. It does give you extra skill check chances. So, yeah. Hyperfocus is the only thing that, like, is a perk that gives you extra skill check chances. But as you know, with Autodidact, and Hyperfocus and how that, like, interacts, it's like Hyperfocus only works on a single bar. So, you don't get to keep those. There was a bug when in the original when the PTB was out for when Rebecca was out in the PTB that you could. It was great. But it was a bug. It was not intended. So it did not go through. And it wasn't even a consistent bug. I couldn't get it to work consistently. That sucks. So having Autodidact kind of inherently give you more of those skill checks is
full of autodidact enjoyers out there, and that is just, it increases the skill check trigger odds by 20%. So now when you're healing someone else,
or they
you have a higher chance of actually getting a skill check, thus you can get your tokens. Pretty simple change. Boon Dark Theory. This one's a little scary, but I think it'd be fine. That is just, in addition to its current effects, it also...
You could just give Spine Chill its vault speed back. You could just do that. You could just give Spine Chill its vault speed back. You could just do that. Okay, you can just do that.
Increases vault speed by 10%. So if you're in range of the boon, you can vault a little faster. You move 2% faster. Yeah, I think it would be fine, personally. But, you know, that would be like a wait and see. I know with Resilience, it would be, what, 19% extra vault speed?
Yep.
I still think that would be okay. Dance With Me. This is a really easy one.
Be honest, rating me. Dijon, fabulous. Hello, friend. How was your God of Warring? Yeah, let's go ahead and keep going with the video.
I would just increase the effect's duration to 5 seconds, up from 3 seconds. Dead Hard. Okay. So Dead Hard got reworked in the 6.1 patch.
I feel like this is what's coming. I'm gonna say this to my chest. I don't think this is a tat suggestion. I think this is what's real. I think it's a realistic suggestion. I think, regardless of how you feel about it, I think this is what Dead Hard is gonna end up being, and it's gonna be a dead perk, for better or worse. No matter how you feel about that. I'm not saying like or I'm saying like woohoo. Like realistically, I can see behavior doing this. Realistically, I think this is where behavior will go with this perk. I think this is like their last option outright, besides like outright just removing it from the game. And this will make the perk, you know, not really used. People won't do that. People won't run it if it's like this, but you know, regardless of how you feel about that. But yeah, it's like I feel like this is the most realistic thing that's gonna happen. I feel like this is very realistic. I feel like behavior might actually go with this. So, yeah.
Patch, and it's better. It's in a much more healthy state, but it is still uncounterable in many situations. It still is a lose-lose situation.
That's handsome.
So I think that rather than just
homie.
overhauling the perk again, I think it actually just make way more sense to have it only work once per trial. Only if you successfully avoid a hit. If you use Dead Hard and you get exhausted and the killer downs you, and you know you got absolutely rolled, then you can like trigger the perk again and again and again. But if you Dead Hard, the killer hits you and you get away because of that with endurance, then it will become disabled for the rest of the game. So you can't reproc a third health state multiple.
I feel like what you would have to do is like, just don't attack me here, please. I'm spitballing. I feel like you would have to make like the distance or something a little bit more like, you know, pertinent. Because if it's only gonna go off once per match, that's not that helpful. If you only get it once per match, so I feel like you would have to make it like a slightly more potent. That way you feel like you got your bang for your buck for that one time you got it to go off, right? Because this is like one and done, period. Like, you don't get this ever again if it hits. Like, that's a dead perk slot. You know what I'm saying? Like the same way you complain, like we don't like new corrupt because corrupt just goes away when you down them. This is the same thing. This is what we're talking about. It's like, this is just gonna be gone afterwards. Like, from this point on, it's just missing. It's a dead perk slot. So yeah, that's the problem with corrupt, is that its effect is nice but not potent enough to really matter if you just like actually do get that early down. So I don't know. Like I said, realistically, they're probably not going to do anything. They're just going to be like, yeah, it just deactivates now. And I don't know if that's, like I said, this sounds like a behavior thing though, but I don't know if that's a good thing. So
multiple times if you've already done it before and it got, you know, a benefit from it. So that's what I would change. Decisive Strike, a simple change, just buff the stun time to 4 seconds, up from 3. I was thinking about having the perk work multiple times a game, but having a 3-second stun time, and I thought this would be safer and less risky. I just think that Decisive is in need of serious help because, my god, dude, Off the Record has killed Decisive Strike. There's almost nobody who uses this perk. It needs a little bit of help. Distortion.
Yeah, I feel like that DS you should bring it back to 5 and make it deactivate in all the same ways it still does, and it should be fine. Just bring it back. Just literally just bring it back. Say you did it wrong. Like, be able to just be like, that was a mistake. Let's just put that back. Let's just put that back, and then it'll be fine. Let's put that back.
I think is actually a little bit too strong, and simple change here, it just does not regenerate tokens while in chase. If you didn't know,
That's fine.
It does not actually work like Stakeout, which is something I found out literally this week.
Yeah, that's fine. I don't care.
It does not stop.
I'm one of those people that doesn't hate distortion. You know what I do? I run lethal a lot. I run lethal on like half my cast, right? If you guys have seen like my my M2 killer build, like it's barbecue lethal. That's what I run in that. And when I was just like, when I load up and I have lethal and I just look and I go, Oh, there's 2 distortion gamers. Cool. Then I just keep playing, right? Like I'm sure there's plenty of people I don't see because I throw them up and I get barbecue and they're not there. But like, realistically, it doesn't actually affect my games that much. It really doesn't. I don't know where this kind of like killer mentality came from, but like, I mean a killer mentality because I still mostly enjoy killer. Like I am also still basically a killer main. So like, I don't know where the distortion hate comes from really, because I'm just like, I don't really notice it taking that massive of an effect on my matches, but people hate this perk now, and I'm just like, what? Like, hello? Like, I don't... It doesn't actually affect me that much. So who's out here getting like completely dumpstered by distortion gamers? Is that really happening with your 4 aura perks? Yeah, and like when I, you know, like I said, like I have a build where like half of my build is 4 aura perks, but it doesn't like, I don't get tilted. I'm just kind of like, oh, that, you know, it's good for them. Like, it's definitely helpful. I'm not saying it's not good. I'm just saying that like to the extent that we need to nerf it, or because like people hate this perk now. Like killers love to like make like Twitter threads talking about how awful distortion is. I've just never actually felt that. Shadow Step, yeah, Shadow Step's way worse than distortion. I would much rather see like something happen with Shadow Step than distortion. Yeah. Like, to me, it's just something that's, like, really good. It's like an A or B tier perk, but it doesn't, like... It's not like, oh, it's winning the match for them. I'm just kind of like, oh, whatever. That's good for them, you know?
Gaining tokens while in chase, which means that, effectively, you're just immune to aura reading the entire game, which is
yeah, I can agree with it not regenerating tokens in chase.
So if the survivor actually
like, if you're playing a stealthier playstyle, you committing to a stealthier playstyle makes sense, right? There's, you know, like, I can get with this, but yeah, I don't think distortion is like a problem. Yeah, it's frustrating, but it's not like OP. It's not like winning the game for them. Like, there's plenty of better stuff they can run in that slot than distortion.
Wants to get their tokens back, they have to do it outside of chase. They have to be within the terror radius and not in chase, just like stakeout. And to round out the survivor perks, we do have a rework to Slippery Meat, one of the worst survivor perks in the game. And what it does now is each time you are unhooked, gain a token. Each token increases your wiggling speed by 10%. After escaping the killer's grasp by any means, a token is consumed. So if a survivor pallet saves you, you wiggle out, the killer drops you, and you get it free that way, you know, whatever. Decisive strike, right? Anything that gets you out of the killer's grasp will consume one of these tokens. So you can't abuse it for long, if it's even abusable. And I think it's a pretty good update to what is a very useless perk. On to the killer perks.
I don't... That's something I gotta think about. That one's kind of interesting. Yeah, like, you'd have to cap it. Yeah, if you cap it, maybe, yeah. If you cap it, yeah. Yeah, 10% sounds kind of high, too. That's kind of was like, yeah. But if you make it too low, it's not worth it either. Yeah, I'll have to think about that one, actually. I know it's supposed to make me, like, think about my take about it, like, my initial thoughts. Like, that's interesting. Yeah, like, I feel like a cap would be fine. Like, just capping it would help a lot. But I'm also interested in, like, is that number too high? That's a good concept. It's a good concept. It just needs, like... It needs, probably refined a little bit.
Like I said, this is significantly longer, so bear with me here. Beast of Prey. This is going to get
Beast of Prey
rework. After chasing survivors for a total of 40 seconds, this perk becomes activatable. Press the active ability button to gain the undetectable status effect for the next 10 seconds. Beast of Prey deactivates once the duration elapses.
So once per match, you can get undetectable mid-chase? Or is that just, like, deactivates? Yeah. Is it deactivates for the rest of the trial, or is it deactivates, period? That's different, right? That's a different scenario. Yeah. That's interesting. Because that's keeping this... I like that he's trying to keep the spirit of the perk. That's what I enjoy, is he's trying to keep the spirit of Beast of Prey's nature. like it's reworking the perk, but it's still trying to do like the idea of what the perk was, which was like, you know, some sort of chase undetectable that's just actually helpful. I think it's pretty bad. Yeah, but like it's better than what she has. It's better than what Beast of Prey currently does. So there's that. And this is period, right? Like, this is something that she charges, right? This isn't just like you activate it like when the chase is over. Like, once the chase is over, like, you know, you have to like you lose it. Like you have a time period to activate it still, so you could like go across the map stealth. Can you imagine that with like Wesker? Like you're chasing somebody for like 40 seconds, and then just like you're just like, oh, hold on a second, undetectable, and you just zoom across the map real quick. Like they have no idea what's coming. Kind of like Baby Tinkerer. It's kind of like Baby Tinkerer. You know? It's kind of like Pocket Tinkerer. Isn't that interesting? It's kind of like Pocket Tinkerer that you can activate. And it doesn't have to be dependent on the gen. That's interesting. Maybe this does work. Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of like Pocket Tinkerer. Yeah, that might work actually. Interesting.
So an on-command undetectable, I think that would be kind of cool. There would be lots of builds built around that. The idea here is just to get something fun, not necessarily oppressive, but just kind of fun, because a lot of killer perks focus more on just insane amounts of slowdown, and I don't like that. And so rather than making this some weird like chase perk, I decided to make it a weird fun perk that revolves around the chase that
it's
has
like Pocket
lots of synergy with other killers and other perks. So yeah, Bloodhound. A little bit of a slight rework to it, but it still does its other effects where like you'd see blood a little easier and the blood pools last longer.
That's fine. This is fine. This does not save the perk, and I would argue still doesn't really make it worth running. I would argue that still doesn't really make the perk worth running. But the hemorrhage, because a lot of characters have hemorrhage add-ons, but some don't. Some don't. So some don't have the ability to apply hemorrhage unless they, you know, are already, you know, because they don't have the add-ons for it. So they have to apply it through a perk. So it would be nice that, you know, something else applies it.
In addition to those things, it will now also inflict hemorrhage whenever a survivor loses a health state. Not mangled, it's not like Sloppy Butcher, but it will put on hemorrhage so that you can have more blood pools and get better value out of Bloodhound. So you don't have to use Bloodhound and Sloppy Butcher.
Gift of Pain, no, Gift of Pain's way better. Gift of Pain's better. I feel like Gift of Pain's like way better than this. This is kind of like, I like what he's doing is he's trying to take these like little parts of stronger perks and just kind of like tack them on to shitty perks. That way there's this kind of this not making them like A tier, but like giving them a little bit more utility. Like a little bit more utility.
Just to see the blood pools. It's now just in its own thing. Blood Echo. To make the perk a little bit more feasible on other killers and a little bit more activatable, I'm just removing the cooldown.
Yeah, I only played Billy for... I started in May of 2020, and then I feel like that add-on, that Billy rework happened like pretty soon after that. Like pretty soon after the Silent Hill chapter. I think that was the mid chapter after Silent Hill. So like I only played old Billy like for like what, like a month and a half. Man, I think it's funny because like with this one, like this is another one I'm like, what? A little weird, right? It's a little weird. Like I never understood why Blood Echo did have a cooldown, to be honest. Like, it was just like, it was one of those things where it's like, the effect was not so... The effect was nice, but it wasn't enough that I thought they needed to, like, really, really put a bunch of training wheels on it. So the fact that it had a cooldown and a hook requirement was just like... I don't know. Weird. It's like, like, you know, they probably needed one or the other, or not both. So I agree with that. That was kind of like a... That was kind of like a DBD like mentality with perks for a long time, was to give them a double training wheels, right? Like look at all Pyramid Head's perks, look at all Blight's perks besides him dying. there was always like a cooldown, and it was like it had a cooldown and then something else, like a requirement and a cooldown with so many of these perks, right? It was like a double training wheels on it, and just like I never got that mentality from behavior. It's like we need a double cooldown on this. Now we're at the opposite end. We're like, Call of Brine, just kick the gen and you get like 30 effects. Who cares? Now we're on the opposite end of extremes, but there was also a time where they were perhaps a little too frugal with like their effects, or it was just kind of like, or too stingy rather, or too stingy with their effects. Sorry, opposite word. Too stingy with their effects. They're like, yeah, let's just give this like 20 training wheels so it doesn't end up being strong and just end up being, you know, useless.
So that every time you hook a survivor, it triggers for 45 seconds. Yeah, pretty simple change. Call of Brine. I'm sure a lot of people...
think about this. Because like think about Blood Echo here. Like without like 45 seconds of exhaustion. So you hook somebody, you have to go across the map. You have to find somebody and you enter a chase with them, and then you know they're exhausted in the chase because obviously while you're running, your exhaustion doesn't go down. There, bam, right. So like 45 seconds, like especially with some of the bigger or more obnoxious maps in the game, you're not necessarily getting value. Not necessarily.
Yeah, pretty simple change. Call of Brine. I'm sure a lot of people have been waiting for this one. Did you know that Call of Brine will actually apply to every generator that you kick?
Yep.
For 60 seconds?
Yep.
Yeah, it's kind of broken.
Yep.
So now it will only apply to a single generator.
No, I completely disagree, Volgan. Absolutely wrong. Absolutely wrong. Completely 1,000,000,000% disagree. Call of Brine gives you info, free slowdown, and you can apply it, like he's saying, to any generator you kick. It does way too much. Way too much. Way too much. Hey, Bard. I'm here to say this. Faithful feeling above. Hey! I wish I was right there with you. Felt, friendo. Felt. Hopefully you're doing well today, friend. Good to see you. We're just doing a react to Tat's video talking about changes that Tat would make to the game. So if you would like to have your input, these do go up on YouTube, so I'm more welcome to have you. But yeah, Cobb applies 3 effects like that are really, really good that are very, very easily accessible. Cobb is a problem. Grocery shopping. Now I'm chilling. That sounds cozy. That's really, really cozy. It is valid. Hey, it means there's less bias going on, which does help.
Generator at a time. So if you kick 2 gens, the last gen you kick gets Call of Brine. It doesn't keep stacking onto other gens. So you can only have 1 instance of Call of Brine active at a single time. So
yep.
Yeah, I think that would be a decent nerf. Deadlock. We're just lowering the duration to 20.
Deadlock's fine. I think Deadlock's okay. I think Deadlock is an okay perk. I think Deadlock is okay by itself. I think Deadlock is fine. Cobb is fine. I wish it had, like I said, I wish Cobb had, like, Cobb gives you so many effects for dry kicking a gen. I like Tat's idea of, like, having it only be 1 gen. So that there's just no drawback to the perk. There's no reason to not run it, realistically. Like, there's no reason to not run Cobb. Right? There's no, like, oh, well, maybe my Scourgex will be spread out, or Deadlock, where it's like, oh, that only kind of slows down the game, but doesn't prevent the gen from being done. There's literally no reason to not run Cobb. Unless you're stupid and just don't kick gens, there's no reason not to run this perk. It's just good with no reason not to be. It just does so much, and it's just, I think it does too much. Yeah, well, yeah, like a cooldown, or like what Tat said, whereas like have it only apply to 1 gen. So if like you really want to have like triple effect on 1 gen, it's only that gen, right? Like you can apply a triple effect that's crazy that has no like, you know, no whatchamacallit, like no requirement, but it's only 1 gen. So they can't like hold a 3 gen with it, you know. So yeah.
20 seconds down from 30.
And I think Deadlock is fine.
For
I think Deadlock's
way too long.
Deadlock's really fair.
The killer doesn't even have to do anything. They just exist, and a gen gets blocked. Not cool.
But that's fine. Okay, that's why I think it's fine. Because so many like if you want killers to only focus on chase, don't you want a perk that is relatively okay but not too strong that just kind of goes on in the background like Corrupt? If you want killers to chase more, like, don't you want to have them not have to babysit gens. Because that's what we're trying to avoid here is like the gen babysitting meta where it's just like me kick, me good, me kick gen. If that's what you want to avoid, don't you want perks that kind of go off in the background? Idealistically? A lot of campers use it? That's true. That is true, but like, so? People have a Gen 99 to guarantee that it was. It's a good strat. That's interesting. That's interesting. One gen takes the Pedras, the other deadlock. That's interesting. Huh. Well. Yeah, never would have thought of that. Yeah, I don't think. I don't know. I think deadlock's okay.
Well,
I could be wrong.
The killer doesn't have to do anything. They just exist and a gen gets blocked. Not cool. Eruption. Slight rework. I'm copying Choi and more or less taking inspiration from Choi because this is a really good idea. But I've added on to it. So after damaging a generator, its aura is highlighted in yellow. Whenever survivors put in the downside by any means, the affected generator explodes, instantly losing 8% progress, down from 10, and becomes blocked by the entity for 25 seconds.
Gen blocking is always better than... Gen blocking is always better than gen regression, because gen blocking is always... gen blocking is a timeout. Gen blocking doesn't say stop playing the game. Gen blocking says slow down a little bit. Timeout. You can still go heal a teammate. You can still go sit on another gen. You could go do a totem. Like, you can still go play the game. And you're not redoing something you've already done, like with, like, Pop and Scourge Pop and all this stuff. Like, it's just telling you to go do something else for a little bit. Right? So, I feel like that's inherently healthier for the game. Is just take a little time out, go heal your friends, go work on a different gen. Something like that. Yeah, I don't feel like Incap should ever be on a perk. Incap is such a powerful effect that it has to be limited. It has to be rare. And to have it be available as long as you own Nemesis, it's kind of like, oh boy. That's such a... Incap is such a... Incap is such a strong effect, so to just have everybody have access to it is just, like, kind of crazy. I don't know how they thought that was a good idea. It's just interesting. It's just interesting that they thought that was a thing. It's just weird. I don't know.
No more incapacitated, it will instead only block the gen. I think this would actually solve all of the problems with Eruption and would make the perk way less annoying. Yeah, it still blocks that gen, but now you can actually heal yourself.
And there's some really, really funny combos you can do. This. Imagine this. So you run Eruption Deadmans, right? You run Eruption Deadmans, right? So you get the Eruption from downing the person. So that hits the gen with 8%, blocks it for 25 seconds, right? And say the person's greedy, right? Like they want to sit outside the gen and just like tap it the moment, like tap it and get right back working on it the moment the gen's done with its entity tendrils, and the killer runs over to you, and you get off the gen and it just entity wraps again. Yeah. You know how funny that would be? That would be hilarious. Yeah, gen crab builds. That would be funny. That would be so funny. Just no. I'm just gonna stick on the gen. Oh no, you're not. Just right back at it. That would be so funny. Hilarious.
Pick up a dropped item. You know, do something productive instead of just kind of twirling your thumbs for 25 seconds, which it currently does with Incapacitated. Which, yeah, not cool. So this new version still keeps the perk strong, but makes it less obnoxious, which I think is really the thing to do with Eruption.
Yep.
Dying Light. New effect. Completely reworked it. After hooking a survivor, the aura of the obsession is shown to you for 4 seconds.
I like that.
And you gain a 10.
I love that. I love that. Because it's a Myers perk, and all Myers perks is all based around like stalking Lori. That actually brings it like closer in line to like the spirit of the character. It really does. Yeah, I like that effect a lot. That brings it more in line with like the character. It really does feel like a perk Myers would have, instead of just like, hey, we attempted a slowdown perk, but it's kind of bad unless you're running on like Plague or Legion, you know, like that. Yeah, I like that a lot. I think that really, it's really emblematic of the character. That's cool. I like that.
10% haste status effect for the next 10 seconds.
It's like I see you and I'm coming after you. Like it's so
I
cool.
think this would be nice. It would also help killers who don't have map mobility. I think this would kind of make Dying Light used way more often, and potentially you could stack it with some
Guarantee
weird
the value
perk that I'm not seeing, but
that's
I think it would be
true
cool.
with play, yeah.
You know,
There's
actually,
perspectives I don't even
you
think
could
about,
use
but
Dying
they're
Light with
interesting.
Beast of Prey. I just realized that right now. That's kind of cool. You could be undetectable and move 10% faster after hooking someone. Like, cause Beast of Prey allows you to like trigger its effect whenever you actually want it. So like you could get a speed boost, and then while you have the speed boost and you're going through the obsession, you can then trigger undetectable, so that they don't know.
I feel like that this is the thing about Dead by Daylight that's always weirding me out is, despite the fact that the obsession mechanic exists, almost all of the obsession mechanics in the game focus around avoiding the obsession. Play with your food, save the best for last. All these perks are focused around like not touching the obsession, which is kind of weird. If you're a murderous monster, why are you avoiding the thing you're obsessed with? You know, it's like I don't. Yeah, that's a yeah. You're right. It's a boring from the obsession because they just kind of like don't get to enjoy the they don't get to enjoy the game everybody else does because they're going to be avoiding you the whole match. So implementing more obsession perks that are beneficial for you to go after the obsession, like that would be good. That would be really cool. I would love more obsession perks that are actually beneficial for you to go after the survivor and that you're obsessed with instead of avoiding them. Like that would be great.
Oh, that's so cool. That's actually cool. I just came up with that. That's awesome. Fire up, slight buff. It now also affects your hooking speed. So every time you get a token,
Furtive chases, yes, yeah, that poor
applies to like
that poor thing.
Picking up
Furtive
survivors,
chase.
kicking gens.
I hope he comes up with something for furtive chase because that perk. Furtive chase, why do you exist? Like, what are you trying to do? What are you trying to do with your life? I don't understand. I don't understand. Yeah. And I like this too with Fire Up because it's like, you know, that's something that happens a lot with like survivor perks, like resilience, desperate measures. They help you unhook faster, but there's not like a hook faster perk, right? So that'd be cool if like Fire Up also did that. Yeah, you literally use furtive chase for hook obsession tomes, and that's it. That's it. That's it.
All that kind of stuff. Now it also applies to your hooking speed. So when you're hooking a survivor, that bar turns yellow, and dude, yellow bar go burr. Overcharge, I am nerfing this perk so that now its initial regression speed starts at 50% rather than 75. So it's a little slower. That's it.
Another me kick gen, me get a lot of value for no reason. For that stupid.
That's all I did. Then we got 2 reworks back to back. You guys are gonna love these. Predator is getting a rework, the perk that literally nobody uses unless they're like doing.
Oh, I love this. At the bottom, they leave
So,
scratch marks for longer.
From like a Twitch build request.
I like that.
Completely new effect.
I like that.
Survivor scratch marks
longer.
are 50% brighter. Whenever a survivor stops running, they continue to leave scratch marks for an additional 3 seconds. Yo.
I wouldn't like that, Vulcan. I wouldn't like just free movement speed for no reason. Even outside of chase, like I don't think I would like just like free movement speed. Yeah, I don't think I'd want that.
I would love this. This would be nice. This would be very nice. Mostly because of just the scratch mark brightness, because there's lots of maps where scratch marks are hard to see on. But the extra effect of it also making it so that scratch marks continue to be left by a walking survivor for a few seconds, that would be clutch to have in some situations. And finally,
even with Spirit, I think that'd be fun. Like that'd be fun. It's an interesting perk. I think it's an interesting perk. And honestly, I'd rather have a Spirit running that than like meta slowdown, to be honest. Like that would help their tracking be better and obviously make an already strong character better, but like it's kind of like Iron Man on Huntress, right? It's like a perk that would be used on her, but not really a whole lot of other characters. But that once again, just like with Huntresses, that keeps another like meta annoying perk out of her slot, right? Because you want that faster reload speed. So it's just kind of like, you know, I think it'd be cool.
Come to the end of it, the last perk that I would change at this point in time is Thanatophobia. New effect, got a rework. While a survivor is hooked, all other survivors receive a 10% penalty that applies to repairing generators, sabotaging.
It's while hooked now? While hooked now.
Hooks and cleansing or blessing totems. This effect stacks for each additional hooked survivor.
I'm all
so
for
now,
more hooks.
Thanatophobia, it has two problems, right? The first is that the slowdown is not very useful. It's 2%, it sucks, who cares? The second problem is there's only 2 killers in the game who can use it, Plague and Legion.
And it's obnoxious on them. Not only are they only 2 characters who can use it, but it's obnoxious on them. It's really, it goes from being useless on other characters to obnoxiously strong on others. And it's just like, it's too iffy.
This rework solves both of those problems. 10%, that's kind of noticeable. And it stacks, so if you have 2 survivors on the hook, that's 20%. And because it's based off of while a survivor is hooked and not who is injured, every killer can benefit from it. So this is just, I think, an amazing rework to Thanatophobia. Maybe I'm up my own ass, but I think that this is a pretty good idea. So those were my perk changes.
I like that, because that's very temporary, right? Like, ideally you shouldn't be leaving somebody on hook for way too long. So like, that's something that will eventually, that's like a debuff that will eventually be removed, like, pretty quickly. Unless your teammates are just like quite literally trying to just greed gens and leaving somebody on hook anyway. I think it's a cool idea. Yeah, you don't want to, like, same thing, Toto. Like, I agree with that. It's like, you don't want somebody just camping to confirm value, right? You don't want somebody camping to confirm value. That's like the only flaw I see with it. But yeah, I would also agree with that. I agree with that.
Meta perk changes in Dead by Daylight and trying to shake things up a little bit.
Yeah, because imagine, like, sometimes you get, like, hooks that are, like, right next to each other. Like, you'll have a hook, like, right here in this tile and then a hook up on Pride Rock, right? So then you'll have somebody hooked here and somebody hooked here, and then, like, the killer just stands right where Dwight is and, you know, make sure nobody can unhook, so he's guaranteeing the game quite literally stops because now he has 20% slowdown on everybody. You know, like, you don't want that situation. You definitely don't want that happening. So, yeah.
Provide some new options and lower the effects and strengths of other things. Let me know what you think. Let me know if you have any additional perks that you think would be cool to have changed. And that is all I have to say for now.
I like that a lot of this wasn't just like, obviously he covers things like DS over Bran Eruption and all that stuff, but I like he covered a lot of perks that are just like sad. Like a lot of sad perks, like Beast of Prey, that they just need something. They just need something. They just need a little sprinkle to make them, like, not even just good, but just like usable. Something that you can, like, synergize with another perk or do something like that. Like, just a lot of little perks that just need something. I would like to see more of these. Straight up, I'd like to see more of these. I would like to see more videos where he kind of, like, tackles, like, some of the smaller perks in the game. Tries to give them a little something that makes them actually usable, actually worthwhile. Yeah, like, the meta is really impressive, but you're also right, is that there's a lot of, like, really garbo perks that he... Is there a part 2? We can just go straight.